Football Friday lecture series on the Sidelines. This year, it's been really successful, and we've had a new addition that we're actually streaming Doug's presentation live on the internet. So actually, we tweeted it this morning, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're trying to push it out via social media. So it's fun for us to be able to not just have the lecture here on campus, but share it to our alumni community in the country and across the world. My name's Lisa Hemming, and I'm the Director of Academic Programs here at the Alumni Association and in charge of our Football Fridays lecture series. So today I'd like to introduce Doug Marsh. Doug, as Associate Vice President for Facilities, Design Operations, and University Architect, Doug has been responsible for leading the university in successful planning, design, and construction of nearly $1 billion of new facilities, renovations, maintenance, utility projects during his 18-year career here at Notre Dame. He has been responsible for the construction of over 30 new campus buildings totaling nearly 3 million square feet and the renovation facilities during his tenure here. And Doug is also responsible for the Notre Dame utilities and maintenance team and provides facility operations services to over 160 buildings covering 10 million square feet here on campus. So a huge job. And with the board in this weekend, Doug's had a busy schedule, so we thank him for taking the time. And Doug is a native of South Bend. He received his degree here at Notre Dame, his architecture degree, in '82, and worked in private practice prior to joining the university in '95. He and his wife, Pam, have two sons. Adam is a 2011 Notre Dame grad and currently pursuing his PhD at the University of Texas, and Alex is following in his father's footsteps as a fifth-year architecture student. So welcome, Doug. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. I have to say it's a unique experience today. I've never been streamed before, so it feels the same right now. But, maybe ask me at the end. I'd love to know sort of the makeup of the audience. So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask maybe a show of hands, particularly about maybe when the last time you were on the campus previous to this visit. So any visitors first time back, or maybe first time visitors or first time back in 5 years? Show of hands. All right, so most everybody's been here in the last 5 years. How about the last 2 years? First visit in 2 years? Is everybody just local? You probably know this better than I do if that's the case. All right, well, I don't see a lot of maroon and gold, so I'm assuming this is a friendly crowd, and we'll go ahead and get to it. But seriously, if anybody is from Southern California and rooting for the Trojans, we welcome you. Welcome you to campus, welcome you to this wonderful weekend. I think it's really one of the things that we do best, and that is host both friend and opponent on playing fields to come to this absolutely stunning, peerless, beautiful campus. And it dialed up a really pretty decent day today. I understand maybe not so good tomorrow, but nonetheless, we're glad all of you are here. What I like to do is just sort of set the talk, if you will, really framework around this very unique perspective of the campus. About every 18 to 20 years, depending on the condition of the gold leaf atop the dome, it needs to be regilded. And Matt Kishore, our incredibly talented university photographer, took this shot, I think it's about 8 years ago, was the last regilding of the dome from this very unique perspective, literally at the top of the dome itself, standing with Our Lady, looking out the view. And what a view it is. It helps remind me particularly of the vision it took to develop and plan and have that dream for the Notre Dame campus that particularly Father Soren, our founder, really possessed. The fact that he laid out Notre Dame Avenue on a piece of paper, and it was a mile long because it's extended into a rural part of the edge of South Bend. Actually, it was a little town in between called Lowell, Indiana, and said, from this axis, I will develop this incredible campus that will do such good for the world. And that it is, over time, really followed that plan, by and large, in terms of continuing to use Notre Dame Avenue as that overall organizing element, and that there's been really responsible and respectful growth. I think of the campus and of all over 1,200 acres in a really really, I think, thoughtful way, well established before I got here. So I consider myself and my team, and I think my peers in other areas of the facilities and sort of the strategic leadership group of the campus as caretakers. I mean, we're really the stewards here of this incredible place, this incredible idea, and understand and try to understand what the values are in terms of campus planning and be smart planners as we try to meet the needs and anticipate the needs of the growing campus and the growing University of Notre Dame, and how complex it becomes as the world continues to grow and be complex. So from this perspective, we found in our archives what the campus looked like about 100 years ago. So you can think about the metamorphosis that's taken place in that 100 years. That from that axis with the same Sacred Heart-shaped carriage walk, I'll go back. And that Washington Hall and the Basilica were there as really kind of framers, if you will, of the main quad. And that at the edge of the quad was where the campus stopped. This was Door Road. And then where South Quad is now was just a farm field. So they had apparently just cultivated the crops and bunched up the wheat before it was carried off in this particular view. So it's these kinds of studies and these kinds of sort of look-backs to the past that really helps us think about what's all important as we continue to look to the future of planning the campus. I want to take you through a series of really artist conceptions, if you will, of what of the campus back in its founding day. You know, of course, in 1842, the only building that was here when Father Soren arrived was the log chapel, or actually, what we have there today is actually a reconstruction of what was imagined to be there in 1842. And then I'll stop at a couple of different sort of strategically important points in time and show you how the campus developed. We actually have a slide for almost like every 10 years, but I won't go through that level of detail. But 1879 clearly was a point in time that was very, very much could have ended the university. The fire of Main Building 2, the building that precedes the building that we now have and we call the main administration building with the gold dome on it. And we know the famous story where Father Soren was in Montreal at the time, was called back to see the campus in ruins, because the main building was everything. It was the dormitory, it was the classroom, it was the offices, it was the kitchen, the commissary, everything's in ruins. And Father, this is the end of Notre Dame as we know it. He said, yeah, it is. And this is actually God's message to me and to us that we dream too small. And that we needed to take this building down and rebuild it from these ashes. And in 3 months, they built enough of the building, the core of the building, without the dome and without the wings, so they could have class beginning that September. And a historic story, but clearly a defining moment in the history and development of the campus. I go to about 1920 because it is an important time as the campus in the original core, the main quad and Lamagnier Library had just been opened. So the library finally moved out of the main building and had its own home here. A couple of the residence halls popped up on the edge of campus. But it was a point in time where Jess Harper and Newt Rockney had really taken the Notre Dame football program and begun to essentially nationalize the university. There was a lot of I'll say discrimination against the campus, against Catholics in America at the time, and many of our football opponents, as we became better and better, didn't want to play us for whatever reasons. And so first Jess Harper, but then Newt Rockney, the coach that of course succeeded Jess, began to take the university football program to places far in between, including going out to eventually to Southern California to play the Trojans, and going to the East in Yankee Stadium playing Navy and Army. And that's essentially how a lot of our reputation was built and how the word got out about the university. And from that point, 25 years later, a lot had grown. The development of the South Quad was probably strategically during the 1930s maybe the second or third most important point in the campus's development. It's 2,600 feet long. You could land an airplane on the South Quad, except for the flagpole that might take a wing off. But it is a remarkable outdoor space. I mean, show me a campus that has an outdoor space as long, and a quad as long as that, and it serves in so many purposes and ways. So it's first and foremost, it's a play field for residence halls that ring it. It's the place that we come to Mass at special occasions, especially, I most vividly recall 9/11, where our answer to this huge tragedy, this huge attack, was to pray and go to church in God's open space in the middle of the South Quad. So it's an important space. It was monumental in scale. It took a huge vision for the university leadership at the time to plan that and to build a remarkable structure. I'll say it, probably my favorite building on campus, the South Dining Hall, as the anchor, not just for the food. But it's a remarkable building, and it has that distinctly unique orange brick to it. And it's so well crafted. It is a wonderful facility, and not a lot had been surrounded yet. So the law school had been built, Alumni, Dillon, but yet a work in progress. During this time, of course, we were really stressed during the war. So many men taken off to fight the wars in Europe and Asia, but ultimately, of course, saved to a certain extent by the Naval Academy, and still strong presence today that we're all aware of in terms of that wonderful relationship with the Navy. I stop at 1987 because this marks the retirement of Father Ted Ned. And you can see as I transition those slides how much campus had developed. And really, let's face it, under their leadership, the university awakened and really became a true university with a research-oriented mission and a strengthening of the undergraduate commitment. And what a wonderful pair of leaders for 35 years here at the university. And we continue to really try to understand and expand that legacy and that vision. So in the subsequent 18 years, a significant development of the campus under Monk Malloy's leadership as president, the establishment, establishment of an anchor, the Barlow Quad, with this incredible new facility that is all things in terms of our performing arts, with the 5 different venues. If you've not had a chance to see some or all of the programming in each one of those different spaces, I encourage you to do it. It's just an absolutely wonderful gem in addition to the campus. But at the time, in 2005, we still struggled with kind of a road and wayfinding system around the campus. We had the Juniper Road and this really awkward intersection. And it was really kind of boxing us in as we started thinking about how to better connect ourselves with the city and the residents, quite frankly. It always felt to them, and I can speak to it because I'm born and raised in South Bend, that there was the campus. Maybe not we're all welcome as townspeople. You've built yourself this kind of green moat around, beautiful campus, but where's the connection point? And so working with the city and the county and all kinds of elected officials and residents, we changed things. We erased that road and pushed Angela out and made an orthogonal intersection with Eddy that allowed us then to form Eddy Street Commons, the college town that is really as much a link to the city as anything. And it's really opened up a huge set of collaborative efforts, a lot of conversation, a whole new residential single and multifamily development opportunities to the south of campus. If you've not had a chance to walk or drive through those areas, it's absolutely incredible. I think we're up to 35 different new homes having been constructed by faculty and staff along Notre Dame Avenue, Francis Street, St. Vincent Street in just the last 10, 12 years or so. An absolute metamorphosis of the Northeast neighborhood, now 50 some odd single-family dwellings in the triangle south of Eddy Street Commons, replacing really a very struggled and stressed neighborhood prior to that. So we have been indeed busy, but I would contend, if you probably can't see the detail, but this starts a graph from 1950 to today in terms of the campus growth. So this is the gross square footage of the campus. It includes the handful of buildings that we have off campus. So we have like psychology into 2 or 3 buildings, and they're fairly small footprint buildings. We have the legal aid clinic on Notre Dame Avenue, or just off Notre Dame Avenue, for instance. But you can see over time, aside from a kind of a flat level in the 1970s, there's been sort of an overall trend upward. And it's up on average about 2% per year, which is a comfortable growth rate. It is really sort of matching up with many of our peers. And in fact, if you superimpose a lot of the top privates, they would be a much steeper incline. And a lot of that's driven by a medical school or a hospital and those disciplines that we don't necessarily host here at campus. But you can particularly see the last couple of years, the incline's a little bit steeper, but overall, I think that trend is going to continue at that rate. In essence, we have about 1,265 acres. That includes the Warren Golf Course and Whitefield. So all those areas north of the campus includes all the campus out to 933, the cemetery, and over to Twickenham. About 171 buildings, and we just eclipsed that 10 million square foot mark. So let me spend the next few minutes just doing a quick flashback of recently completed projects. That might entice you to actually visit them if you've not had a chance to see these facilities on your stay here on campus this weekend or subsequent visits. Just in March or April, we opened up the Stater Center for Executive Education. It's a remarkable new building that has allowed our executive education team and disciplines, both from the EMBA side, but also the ability to bring in corporations, companies, institutions from across the globe and spend a few hours or a few days, maybe even weeks, in teams, learning, building relationships, having access to world-class faculty in a number of different learning environments all spread through the building. It's been a tremendous boon to continuing the legacy at Mendoza College of Business. It's helped us unpack that very crowded building and give us a little bit of growth space in that building as we've taken those programs once hosted in there into the new Stater Center. It's about 65,000 square feet, designed by Robert Stern. Robert Stern is a notable American architect based in New York, his first project here at Notre Dame, but they have a particular expertise in the design of business schools and executive education facilities. They did a remarkable job with this. This is an executive lounge on the top floor, northwest corner, frames a wonderful view back to campus. There's a lot of breakout spaces. Teams need ability to grow in size in their studies, or then have subcomponents spin out and work on assignments. You'll see these kinds of spaces throughout the building. There's all kinds of imagery and theming through the building that you clearly know you're at a place with deep values that will influence business decisions for generations to come.
Doug, where is that building located?
That building is almost due east from here, so it's across the Barlow Quad. I should have had a map on there, I'm sorry. So it's just to the south of Mendoza College of Business, almost to the Performing Arts Center. Probably kind of wayfinding here. So this would be taken from almost Stinson Rennie Hall. There's a chapel, really nice space that faces the quad. So I invite you to go into there. It's a chapel dedicated to St. Matthew, of course, the accountant, right? The Morris Inn. So I don't know if you've had a chance to go into Morris Inn. Even if you're not staying there, it's a place that obviously welcomes all. A wonderful pub, restaurant added to the complement of facilities there called Roar's. Great place to either have just a drink or a menu item. Soren's, of course, is still there. And then there's a fireplace terrace out back that welcomes you all year round, not just as on crowded weekends like it is now. Imagine the vision, or maybe the conversation it took for Father Kavanaugh, actually the president that preceded Father Ted, when a local Presbyterian businessman who started a bank many years after he had been admitted to the university with virtually no money in his pocket, came to Father Kavanaugh and said, I want to give you a hotel. You need to have a room, a space, a living room, if you will, that invites all from the world to come and see Notre Dame. And I'm going to build it on Notre Dame Avenue off campus. Well, yeah, those days there wasn't a lot of growth, so we'll take a hotel. I guess we're in the hotel business. And so there was a change in presidency. Father Ted took the project over. First project completed under his leadership. And literally off campus, so Door Road. Once, of course, in that earlier shot was the edge of the north edge of South Quad, which pushed down to here. So the campus really was limited to here, other than the stadium. And they built the inn here. Now, to this day, I wonder what drove that angle. I'm just never quite sure. Everything's pretty orthogonal at Notre Dame. That one was, as an architect's folly maybe, but you can see it just at the edge of the golf course, the Burke golf course, and nothing else around. And then today. So it went from, in 60 years, off campus to, well, it feels like that's the middle of campus, doesn't it? I mean, that's the crossroads. And if anything, that's what influenced us to reinvest in the Morris Inn on that site. We've been thinking about doing something different with our hotel for 10 or 12 years. We had previous plans, you might have seen them online or been to one of my talks before. We thought we were going to build a new hotel on St. Mary's Lake on the parking lot where the students park right now. But that wouldn't have been the center of campus. That would have required probably shuttles to go to a ball game or go to the main building. And it had been felt more like off campus, like that previous shot. So we decided to reinvest here, particularly after getting a gift from E.M. Morris's daughter, Ernestine Racklin, wonderful matriarch of the family that continued the legacy of the development of First Source Bank, and a really close friend of Father Ted. In fact, it's funny, they call each other like brother and sister, and remain really good friends today. And thanks to that leadership gift, reinvesting in her father's dream, as well as several other generous gifts, we're able to reinvest in the building itself. And so I'll just spend a minute or two, just because we just got done with it, and I'm sort of like getting my breath. It was a wonderful project, a huge challenge. I'll just have to tell you. These are some of the snapshots of the inside if you've not had a chance to get in. But the staff welcomes you to walk through. Even if you're not staying there, they won't toss you out. Walk around. There's the fireplace terrace, a wonderful place to spend an evening. And if you're lucky enough, you can get the room with the Japanese soaking tub there. I've not tried it myself, but I'm told it's good. Now, we changed a lot, but Murph is still there. So he's smiling, running the show as usual. But he's got a lot bigger bar. So indulge me, if you will, for a couple of minutes. I have to do sort of this a manual sort of fly-through or time-lapse study, if you will. So almost a year ago, like the 22nd, we got the project. The last person left the inn, and the clock started on 39 weeks. I had to turn it over to the operations team on August 1 because they had about 2 weeks to train everybody, about 200 employees, and have the thing open and ready for business about August 15th. We had a football game that we played early this year, right? So it put the added pressure on everybody. You could see the first day we mobilized cranes. There's no people here because we're all at the grotto. Then we dug in. So within about 10 days, you can see that oddly shaped south wing, or angled south wing, came under the guise of the wrecking ball. And a month later, December 1st, it was gone, and we actually had the basement started of the new 4-story guest wing here. We're also starting to chisel away on the east face of the building, as you can see. The reason is we peeled off the first 7-10 feet or so because of structure. We needed to make the building wider there. It made sense to saw it first and then put an addition on. So that's what was going on January 1. Still building that basement here. Still tearing things away. The clock is ticking. We've got basically now at this point, 7 months to start putting things back together, yet we're still tearing things down. This is when I started really getting nervous. We were setting structural steel. You know, there's certain days you get snow, it's dangerous for iron workers to be on platforms and on the steel. We couldn't have them work and take those risks. I'm happy to say this was a zero lost work incident project. Not a single worker was injured during this time, and that's huge. That's probably the most thing we're proud of. Just we want everybody to go home after every day on our projects. A month into it, a month later, walls started being formed, but yet we still have a 4th floor to build and no sign of a roof. It's April 1, the roof framing starts, but water's still coming into the building, water's still coming into the building, and water's still coming into the building. Yeah, we're trying to finish with drywall, etc. It was a real scramble, especially the last 3 months. There were double and triple shifts by many of the trades. They knew that going into it. We had to continue to remind them and really willed the project to be done. So July 1, we're still scrambling, and then finally we did turn it over, and there was a great celebration. The staff had been doing some advanced training in McKenna Hall across the street for a couple of days ahead of time, and they had this sort of triumphal walk into the building. And a lot of times, thank you. I appreciate that, Dad. No, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun, but I don't want to make a habit of it in terms of this crazy schedule. At the same time we're building the inn, we were moving a road. So why did we move the road? We built for the county, turned it over to them right before school started, about 1.2 miles of Douglas Road that used to go through here. And if you've, and probably many of you come off the toll road, this has always been really pretty ugly entrance. It's sort of a dirt road to get to Whitefield parking, closed off for any other time. If you wanted to go east, you have this awkward series of turns. Created some conflict with our University Village population that wants to cross there. More and more service workers having homes up here for their workplace, having to cross at these lights. At the same time, much in the same way of moving Juniper over to Twickenham, we thought this was a strategic moment and an opportunity to take it's really some simple road engineering and not only solve those safety and aesthetic issues, but also glue 120 acres of campus property to the campus and the congregation's property itself, and literally start erasing this road away. So Douglas Road is now gone here. This is the entrance to the northern part of campus, and particularly for people who wish to go to the regional shopping mall area district, back and forth. So that moves traffic actually much faster than this awkward thing. This road was really beat up, only 2 lanes, actually quite unsafe. So we've got a plan then, what we'll do with this property, essentially develop it over time, mainly for sort of continued home of service operations to the campus, things that don't want to be and don't need to be on the center part of campus, but also for our, I'll just call it sort of dirty research, tough research. So an example of that is our wind turbine facility. So we have high-speed turbines out there, some of the state-of-the-art testing equipment. We have all kinds of contracts from the from Air Force and Navy, Marines that are studying different ways to spin turbines, looking at how the next generation of aircraft can be a really advantage to us, lighter weight materials. We're looking at wind power, which we have a couple of wind turbines on poles out here, studying the effects of plasma flow on those rotors. That's interesting research. It's hugely important, and we have some of the top people, but it's incredibly noisy. And those kinds of equipment and machines also draw a lot of power. So our substation from the utility company is actually right here. So power comes off the grid here. We have a much shorter way to bring that electricity there. That's the kind of thing I think you'll see in time be developed in Whitefield, particularly inside here. No imminent plan for a huge changeover. We know it's important parking for game day. That'll continue to mainly be that over time. But this is one of those sort of longer-term vision things, just as we had that vision in our forefathers that helped move roads to get the South Quad developed and extend Notre Dame Avenue, et cetera. So it was a fun project, started in March, finished in August. I repeatedly get asked by my friends in town, why aren't we in the road building business for the entire county and state? We had an unfair advantage. We owned all the land, and we could, we're private, so we picked our contractor, motivated them, and they got the job done. Really, really great. Same team that did the Juniper Road and Edison and Angelo relocation a few years ago. Every year we really reinvest significantly in a residence hall, sometimes 2 per year. The Lions Hall, badly needed. Great community in there. Just the steadfast part of our makeup of 29 undergraduate residence halls, but in need of quite a bit of work. So actually, partnering with Student Affairs, we invested $6 million into Lions Hall this summer. The building has really worn well for us. It's approaching 80 years old. The roof was original, but that's sort of the end of its service life. So we replaced the slate shingle roof, all the gutters, downspouts, new windows, cleaned the building, tuck pointed all the masonry, replaced all the landscape. It looks like a new residence hall. On the inside, still has its charm and its character, but modernized the plumbing system. Not a lot of charm about that original cast iron and galvanized metal tasting sort of water and those kinds of things. So new plumbing, new bathrooms, new community kitchens on every floor, so that there's continued reinvestment in making sure our undergraduate experience is a continuum. It continues that whole legacy towards the quintessential Notre Dame experience of meeting friends in your first 2-3 days, and they're your friends for life in our residence hall systems. So we continue that plan. Next year, St. Ed's is our target. We also opened a new rugby field, but it's more than rugby. It's actually an artificial turf that's marked for rugby. So we have a pretty significant rugby program, not a varsity sport, but a club sport. These guys play around the country. I say guys, I'm not quite sure if we have a women's program. I wouldn't be surprised if we do. And then we also mark the field for soccer. So dorm soccer, club soccer, inter-hall soccer, all can happen on here. And it's on that durable surface, so that we're not tearing out the grass and having some of the wear issues that we do on some of the other areas. So it's home to a lot of activities. We lit it, so it's used well into the evening each and every night. This is not campus. This is Rome, Italy. This is the Colosseum from Google Earth. And this is a building that the university purchased about 3.5 years ago. It is intended to be an enhancement of our current facility, located about a mile to the east, also in the heart of Rome. That's been the home of the School of Architecture since the early 70s. It's where I studied as a junior, it's where my son studied as a junior just a couple years ago. But architecture's really outgrown its space. More grad students, more faculty, really needed to flex its wings and muscle a little bit. At the same time, we needed a place to also have academic programming for the other students that we send to Rome. So we send art students, theologians in training, philosophers, musicians, other arts and letters in particular to Rome. They study at John Cabot University, an American university that sort of is, essentially fosters American students. Now we'll have them under one roof, all working together. Architecture is not by themselves. It's good for architects to get out and see other people. So that'll happen in this building. It's not housing, so our students will still have an in-Rome housing experience, living in a hotel, pension in this region, but an opportunity to really kind of to grow. This is what the building looked like before renovations. And when I say renovations, we gutted the building. It needed it. It was a pharmaceutical office building, hadn't been touched on the inside for 40 years. It's about a 110-year-old building itself, built over 3 different periods of time in the early part of the 20th century. And there's actually a couple additions that were put on like in the night. Yeah. People sort of look the other way. This can happen, as it turns out. We were concerned about structural integrity. It was a first-generation reinforced concrete building in their technology, as much as it would have been here in the U.S. in that era. So concerned particularly about earthquake-prone Italy, we reinforced the whole building. So I had to gut it down to its skeleton, jacketed all the structure, and it is good to go. Very robust building, and now it looks like this. All new skin, new plaster, obviously changed the color, which is not easy to do. If you've been to Italy, you know how protective they are of their palette, but worked really well with our local authorities, replaced the windows. We hired a local architect, a father and son team that to our benefit didn't have any other work at the time. So we got a lot of care and attention. They were on the job site literally every day during construction. So it's a meeting place. This is actually a photograph shown with a folding wall in place, but this pushes back into a pocket. This is a big assembly room that we can have large lectures, but we can also have a meeting like this. It's a global gateway building, if you will. That's kind of the vernacular we're using at the university. Establishing those gateways in cities like London and Rome and Jerusalem allows us to really use the university's mission as a place for all kinds of discussions, peace discussions, ecumenical discussions of folks from across the world. And so that's another use and purpose of the facility. And just a couple other examples. This is our open space and classrooms before the furniture, library, and then of course a chapel dedicated to Blessed Basil Moreau, who is depicted in this stained glass, and then Mary's Seat of Wisdom in this one, made by the local artisan in Rome. Their attention to detail, their craftsmanship, of course the Italians are known for great things like stained glass, plastering, tile work. It's absolutely outstanding. As good as anything we would get here on campus, and we have a high standard. But this building really was a wonderful surprise to us in terms of just the care and attention that the contractors gave to us. This is a subterranean vault, so you can see some of the original. These are like almost not Roman ruins, but probably sort of Renaissance ruins of the building that preceded it below street level, and it makes it for a great exhibition space. And then from the very bottom of the building to the very top, we don't have the cushions on this particular shot, but we found the roof and redid the roof, and now with Wi-Fi saturated out there, this will be a study space as much as anything else, maybe an occasional party, I can see. Here's the Colosseum. I mean, literally a block away, you see the top edge of the Colosseum, you see the rest of Rome beyond. I think this neighbor lady is a little worried about what was happening. We catch her peeking over there, but we assured her our students are really well behaved. And then we look down from the terrace. There's actually other levels of terrace, and then a little piazzetta. We actually own this building too. It's about 2,000, 3,000 square foot building. We didn't renovate it. We think that could be ultimately maybe either apartments or some faculty offices. So had a lot of fun with this project. Just finished it up. Students are beginning to use it. So a quick recap of things that have been going on. So let me spend the rest of my talk really updating you on where we're headed. There's 2 or 3 projects that have been announced of late that you might have seen in the university's media information releases. First I'll talk about social sciences. So a building that has been long planned, quite frankly, looking for funding, a building that will go on a really special place, and that's this lot just south of the Hesper Center for International Studies. So this is a place for sociology, political science, economics to come together and study, office, classrooms, all kinds of interactive space in what will be probably 170,000 square foot building, like an $80 million building. We're going to start construction in about 1.5 years on that particular property. And then more recently, just in the last week or two, announcement about a new School of Architecture. So School of Architecture currently in Bond Hall, which is just off the map here. Really also, like its facilities in Rome, really at the seams. So we have a lot of wonderful faculty. They're doubled up. Grad students are ever increasing in size. It was time for a new facility. So we really appreciate the Walsh family for the wonderful gift to make this project a reality. We like it on this particular site at the edge of campus, near the arts building here, starting to think about an arts district. You see we're reserving space for a new art museum. That's been a long time vision. But the students in architecture actually most live off campus. So first year students, sophomores, generally of course on campus. Third year you go to Rome. You come back from Rome. You get a lot of independence in Rome. I'll just say that from my own experience. You don't necessarily want to go back in the residence hall system, and so a lot of students live off campus fourth and fifth years. Fifth years you have no choice, and then graduate students of course live off campus, and so they live generally in neighborhoods south and east of the campus, maybe a few to the north, but in essence next to a lot of parking and next to the city itself. And the Archies are really engaged in different opportunities, helping South Bend, different neighborhoods do some planning. It's a great kind of give and take in terms of great academic opportunities for them to study different neighborhoods and urban planning and building planning projects, but at the same time, residents in the city get a lot out of that. So a lot more of that interchange can happen when you're more accessible rather than buried in the middle of campus. So these are projects that will really be queuing up, as I said, next 18 or 24 months. And I can hear the question now, looks like you're taking some more parking away, Doug. So I thought I'd just go ahead and talk a little bit about that. We fly to campus about every 3 years, and this is about a 2.5-year-old image, so it's not the most current. You can see Compton Ice Arena was still under construction when we flew it last. We also built, since then, another 270-car parking space, which not coincidentally is the same capacity as that parking lot. So we've caught this, we're trying to anticipate this, built this. It's a shared facility, so it's an overflow from bookstore. The faculty staff can park in here every day. It's called the BK lot. That's for bookstore, not Brian Kelly. And it also is overflow from the Morris Inn, given the larger capacity and number of rooms there. We're also planning, this is right now where the architecture, this is where visitors park as they come to the southern edge of campus. And so we'll probably replace that parking using the old Edison Road. Remember the old shot, Edison came through here. So I think there's opportunities to replace that parking in kind. We're kind of watching parking very, very closely, almost space for space, because we know how critical it is and how precious the supply is. What is important to us are really kind of two components. Day in and day out, we have enough. Now, it's not always the most convenient. You can see this is an average class day. We always fly this image on a peak time, usually a Tuesday or Thursday afternoon, when most people are here. It's when the most classes are scheduled, it's most faculty we anticipate on campus, same with staff and students. And so out here in the outer bands are where off-campus students traditionally park, and then the closer ones, of course, are faculty and staff that come early in the day. So yeah, it's a little bit farther. It might be another 3 or 4 minutes from here to here. But in essence, these are the destinations that people find within a pretty reasonable sort of reasonable range. So that's the first factor, making sure we can operate the campus day to day. And then there's game day, which is a completely different experience. We know special events, whether we have a hockey game going on simultaneously with a basketball game, or it is our football game day situation, we know spaces are at a premium. And so particularly in all seriousness, tailgate is an important part of our tradition, and we don't want to lose that. So we are committed to maximizing this and maintaining that surface parking lot as long as possible. We have no plans for buildings on that surface lot. So that's an important gesture to consider there. We also point out periodically there's 1,200 car parking garage down here at East Street Commons, and it actually gets quite a few people attracted to it for game day. I just thought I'd reflect a minute or two because I think there's probably some questions about the stadium. You've probably heard about what's coming up at Notre Dame in terms of we're examining sites in and around the stadium as potential expansions of student life missions and academic missions. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes talking about that. And I thought I'd start with just sort of reflecting on the 7 tenets of planning. We put this in our campus plan about 2001, 2002 when we rewrote our master plan, if you will, and just said everything we do really needs to reflect through these 7 tenets. I won't get into them in detail other than the 4 I've highlighted, particularly are germane to the discussion that we're about to have about enhancing and growing the campus. And so, number 1, we recognize this is a place of residentiality as much as it is about the academy. So a lot of people call this home each and every day. So we got to be mindful of both those things. This is not just an 8 to 5 kind of place, clearly. The stewardship of the built environment, architectural form. So there's an expression here. We have of architectural styles. We have a signature. We have everything's sort of a French village scale. Those are important things for us to keep in mind as we continue to plan the campus, both spatially, horizontally, and vertically. Axes, focal points, and quadrangles. These are precious spaces, as we talked about before. The South Quad, Main Quad, even the newer quads, the Barlow, North Quad. Important open spaces to continue to maintain and be stewards of. And then finally, a real sort of a paramount tenet, if you will, and that's to make sure pedestrians are keen when it comes to conflict with vehicles. And so, yeah, we have taken a few of the parking spaces on the interior campus and put them to the edge. That was in order to enhance the walking environment we have at Notre Dame. And I hopefully you agree with me that it's to the benefit. You can walk in the parkland, if you will, of the campus without fear of, hopefully not being run over at any given point in time. So let me introduce this series of drawings to say, well, kind of some of the tools I'm sharing with you as we think about the campus. And this is a radius, a circle with a radius that swings out to the 2 most extreme residence halls. So Duncan here at this edge and to Pascarilla East in this edge. Okay, and so what the center point is, just coincidentally, on the center of South Quad down here towards the east end. And what I marked here is LaFortune Hall, because this is about reconsidering where we're planning a new student center. In the last version of our master plan, published in 2008, spent a long time thinking about it, looking for sites for a student center. And we had selected putting it immediately east of the Steppen Center. So you know where that's at. It's actually way up here, right? It's outside this circle. Yet this is our residential zone. This is the walkable campus. This happens to be about a 5-minute walk on the average person's gait, about 2.8 to 3 miles an hour. That's about 5 minutes. And that's about what we want Notre Dame to continue to be in terms of that, just a 10-minute total diameter walking environment. Yet, I think we inadvertently placed this student center and sort of thought about it out there. And it's not coincidental that we haven't gotten a lot of support for it as we've sought funding for it. And a badly needed facility, because LaFortune, as wonderful and charming as it is, and will continue to remain a student center, we're out of space. We have 400 different student groups here on campus that look for meeting space for virtually every day, if not every week. Hard to find. We have office space needs for them. We have all kinds of opportunities for intersection with each other, work in teams, study, socialize. Go through LaFortune any evening from 10 o'clock till 2 in the morning, and the place is packed, and it's widely successful. Not talking about replacing it, talking about really supplementing it. So where do we find a new student center to be? Next thing I'll do is superimpose the academic neighborhood on the residential neighborhood. So this is an intersection of those two things. The reason I do that is because there's an opportunity with a well-placed student center to have a home for when faculty and student want to interact. Right now, the Barlow Classroom Building, a workhorse classroom building, has at its peak 5,000 students in it on a given day, is really kind of the home base. If you've ever been standing outside that door during class change get out of the way, because it's just a lot of energy in here, and you might have seen we've redone this plaza out there to try to make that a much more pleasant pedestrian experience. But when you think about sites, you really want to have something in this academic zone so that it's adjacent, is much more convenient for students, and maybe at the same time find a place that you can enhance recreational life, so an additional recreational sports facility, maybe even a career center. We have a remarkable career services division led by Lisa Vetti. It's, if not the top, certainly among the top in the country. Recruiters come from across the globe seeking our students. Right now, they have to find them in Flanner Hall. And those folks are out of space. They need space for job fairs. They need space for more interviews, for more places for students to get training to prepare for interviews. We're out of space. What about a facility that could co-locate all those things? All things student, but be within the residence zone, as well as then at the edge or part of an academic zone. And so it's kind of the target is, what would you do in the center of the intersection of these two areas? Well, we're not going to put it in the South Quad, right? We're not going to touch any of these quads for new buildings. There is no space. But it occurred to us in recent planning, and this is really what precipitated this whole discussion, is look at that. That's interesting. That's a very unfriendly walk right now, right? There's a drive that goes around, a lot of pavement, pretty cold. While it's a tasteful addition to the stadium done in the mid-90s, it's still a very tall, cold wall, especially in January when you're walking through your car here and you're going to O'Shaughnessy to a class or to your office. This is not a pleasant experience in most days. What about, could you use that site? Could you use this site for an academic function that wants to have adjacency to the city and to the town and to allow parking? And could you do the same thing on this side? So those are the things that we're currently considering. And so we continue to study this and queue up different options. We think this makes a lot of sense for a student center, a rec center, and a career services center. Really in what was, if you remember, think about those photos before, and I'll show you some more in a second. What once was off campus is really becomes very close to the middle of campus when you think about the diagram that I'm sharing here. So again, once was off campus and now really welded into the campus. I mean, clearly we're not going to move the stadium. We're committed to that. Not under my watch. So, look, what about the value of that land, and could you actually place buildings there? It's an exciting conversation we're having, an exciting series of studies. Another retrospect, the heyday of tailgating. And then how the campus is growing around the building. So let me just conclude before we take questions and assure you that we're mindful of our roots. We think about the past, going back to the very first master plan that Archives found, that is really under Father Soren's signature, that placed the main building, the Basilica, and Washington Hall, and the power plant actually at one point in time, and began to plan how this campus would grow. And so it's those roots, it's that inspiration that we take to work every day, and I'm really just blessed to be here, and really appreciate you all coming today. So let's turn it over for some questions. Take it outside, boys. That's a great question. As we think about the campus and keeping it compact and keeping it walkable, I often get questioned, if we continue to grow, we'll sprawl. No, we won't. Especially if we're smarter about sites and potential buildings that are approaching the end of their service lives. Now, Riley Hall, is a stout building, but it lacks some central system. It has no air conditioning, and it has many other limitations structurally, accessibility-wise, probably things that are not good to, sort of not wise for reinvestment, but in time will probably replace Riley. So a new facility for art and art history and design actually I think will come out of a strategic plan just being finished by the university and be a target for eventual reinvestment on a different site. Probably allow us to take and re-examine the future of Riley and that particular site. Yes, sir.
Who got Marsh to do that?
Well, we approached them, and they responded to an RFP along with several other firms, and we interviewed them, and we were real excited about their vision for the building, and we thought they were very compatible. So they were happy. They were very pleased to do it. Yes.
What's the timeline for the relocation of the art? And what would happen to you?
Sure, great questions. The timing really that drives all of our capital projects is really the funding. In 2001, 2002, not long after 9/11 and the economic setback that occurred after that, the trustees adopted a funding policy that we carry with us to this day that's really proved quite wise. And that is no construction will start. We can do planning, we can design, but no shovel in the ground until 100% of the money has been raised and 75% of it is actually in hand. So that it assures us when we have to bridge over other troubled times like we did in 08, 09, that we had the money to continue on. We had projects under construction, we continued to build because we had that money. Other universities you saw stop. Foundations left in the ground, skeletons, because they did not have that flow of money coming into the university, did not have that already in hand. So it really is much as that as a driver. So the art museum's been a target for a number of years in terms of a fundraising target. There's been many significant gifts given towards it, but we lack the lead gift that gives us that green light to actually start hiring an architect and plan while the rest of the money comes in. So it's all a timing thing. We work very closely with Lunani and his office to understand where we're at with many of these initiatives. And then at some point in time, when he thinks he's within 18 months to 2 years of having met that funding formula, he sends us a signal through John F. LaGrave's office and my office, and we get started.
Bond Hall, what do you think the future of Bond?
Bond is a tremendous building. I think we have some work to do to think about what things could fit into it without major changes. It was the first project I worked on when I came to Notre Dame in '95 was a renovation. It meant a lot to me because I was a student, of course, in there in its days after it was the library became architecture in like 1963. So I know the building well. It's in great condition. I suggested to John F. LaGrave's, my boss, several times that it'd be a great home for facilities department. But it would put me a lot closer to his office in the main building.
I was first architecture class in there in 63.
Oh, great.
In 64, actually. We had some makeshift space in 63.
It was still makeshift in 77 and 82.
The other thing I've heard in chats with Murph and others around the bar, there's going to be a big parking garage blocking the stadium. Do you think a parking garage is in our future?
It is. It's a matter of time. We don't envision it for the south part of campus. Given that we have nearly 4,000 parking spaces where I showed you, I think we're good as long as we're careful stewards of those spaces. I do expect in time something will be developed in the north part of campus. I think we're 5 to 10 years away, but we're thinking that the first possibility may be north of Grace Hall on that parking lot that's already sort of a half level or so down. That might be a natural place because we're going to continue to grow the faculty and particularly bring research teams to the university. We're going to need to accommodate them.
Any discussions about retirement going tonight?
Not necessarily right snuggled next to the campus, but there's been discussions, particularly with our thinking about the future of Eddy Street Commons and the opportunity to maybe extend it down Eddy Street. Would that make sense for some senior living? It's a great question. It's been in our minds. We don't have a plan for it, but I know Holy Cross has done a really great job on the west side of Highway. Maybe that's an inspiration that we'll consider over time.
We have time for one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know this is a campus related, but is there any long-term plans for revitalizing Chantor? Because I heard a lot of kids, I know I've been here, so I know it's revitalization.
So it's not necessarily directly in my territory, but it is a great opportunity. I agree with you. I had the privilege to visit there about 4 years ago and do a facilities assessment. And it was eye-opening in terms of just how wonderful. I mean, it's a huge building. For those of you who don't know, it's in Bethlehem, right on the edge. Yeah, I mean, just it's a great place for peace studies. And, yeah. I believe there's teams thinking about it and considering the future of it in a good way.
Thank you very much, Doug. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.